Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Kara Goodwin, and I'm the host of the Meditation Conversation podcast. And today I want to talk about strengthening prayers. There are things that we can do to help to strengthen our prayers. And the example that I want to use today is something that I was doing during Hurricane Milton. So I was in the Caribbean, actually in the Bahamas, and this hurricane was brewing in the Gulf, and we weren't in the path, but I was you know just watching it very closely in case it changed direction. And then also they were just predicting this to be this historic kind of massive hurricane based on what it was doing in the Gulf. And so I was, of course, praying for the storm to weaken and for anybody in the line of the path to be safe. And this hurricane, they were watching it, they were predicting, like I said, they were predicting it was going to be this historic event, this historic hurricane. I was praying myself, but what I was also doing as I was praying was imagining that I was adding my light and my power to everybody who was praying for this hurricane to weaken. And I found that to be so valuable. Now, when I say that I was imagining, we have to understand that our imagination, while in our conditioning, we may kind of disregard our imagination. We may look at the world in terms of reality and imagination. And I know that I've been there in my own life where I've discounted my imagination. I have just figured that that's not real. So why pay attention to that? And I know, like early on in my meditation practice, I was often on the lookout for, like, if I would experience something that was beyond my five senses. Let's say there's light coming in, or I would feel that I would receive information, or I think I would hear something or whatever. I would very often be like, now, was that my imagination or was it real? And it took time and understanding and training for me to accept that the imagination is such a vital part of our meditation practice and opening ourselves up to our psychic centers and our ability to understand and receive intuition. So I very much value my imagination. And I think that it's an easier way as a teacher to be able to say, use your imagination. I say this a lot when I'm guiding meditations. Use your imagination. Imagine that your divine team is with you. But what's interesting is that your brain, there are so many studies, really fascinating studies that talk about how your brain doesn't know the difference between your imagination and reality. And this is why, sorry, I feel like I'm going on a lot of tangents here, but like, if you've ever looked into affirmations, people who teach about affirmations will talk about state your affirmation in a positive way. So if you're wanting to if you feel like you're trying to have an affirmation for your health, you don't want to focus on, I don't want this cough anymore. You're trying to overcome a cough, and it's like, I don't have a cough. I don't have a cough. Well, what your brain is focusing on is the cough. So it's, reframing it. So I am in vibrant health and all of my cells are aligned and so forth. So anyway, that's the power of the imagination. That's the power of suggestion to your brain. And that's why, for me, I like to say I was imagining that I was energetically connecting with all of these people. And I was imagining, but you can also think of it as visualizing all of these souls who all were praying that this hurricane would weaken. And it gave me so much more power. It really kind of amplified. I could feel my energy amplifying and strengthening because it was joining in thousands of other souls and uniting and feeling that like my heart energy was tracking into the storm with all of these other souls who wanted the highest and best for this storm system that was coming through. And as that hurricane approached land, it did considerably lose its strength, and it did not cause the destruction that for days and days they were predicting. So, and I have seen other people now, like afterwards, I saw other people on Instagram who were talking about that they were adding their, they were kind of saying, we did it. We were all working together to weaken the power of the storm. But your consciousness is so powerful. So that's one of those like mass kind of national, even global events where you have lots of people who all have attention on it and they can add their intention to it. But you may have other things in your own personal life that you're praying for, or loved ones in your life that you're praying for who aren't on the news. The events that you want to affect change for that aren't nationally broadcast. So it may be like, well, what do I do if I just want to, I want to pray for a promotion and I don't have, how am I going to get like thousands of souls to join me? How can I join in on that? But remember, you have a divine team. You have benevolent, oh, I have so many chills. Okay. You have a, you have all of these benevolent beings who are there and accessible for you, who are invisible, but they're helping you. And it helps so much for you to ask for their help. And you can do the same sort of thing with this invisible help. So you have your own higher self that you are an expression of, and you have you may have angels, you have ancestors, you have ascended masters, you may connect with benevolent star family. There are all these beings who are there assisting you and supporting you that you just might not be able to see. You may not really hear their guidance. It may be hard for you to kind of feel their influence in your life. But that's really, it's not that that influence isn't there or that assistance isn't there. It's you developing your spiritual gifts so that you can tune into that assistance that's there for you. So, and that's just part of growth and development. But so it's one of those, like, even if you don't necessarily ever feel this help, it's not that it's not there. But you can do the same sort of thing that I was talking about with gathering your attention, your intention, your heart's energy, adding your prayers, that additive. It's actually additive isn't even the right word. It's exponential. So when we add our energy into this current of energy and intention, it's exponentially amplifying. It's not just like 1 + 1 = 2. It's, we start to get to the power of, it's like you get 10 and it's amplified. It's not just added. But anyway, you can do the same thing with your divine team. So you can imagine that and you don't have to know who this team is, but you're just intending those beings who are of the highest light, who are 100% God source, who are here supporting my development. I welcome all of you in, and I thank you and I love you and I bless you. And then you can imagine that you are in a circle with them, maybe in a sacred space. I like to think of myself like in a temple, like in a crystalline temple, with all of this light pouring in. And you can kind of have that future state of what you want to bring forth, the healing that you want, the abundance that you want, the promotion in that example that I gave a minute ago. And you can kind of have that in the center of the circle, your intended future state, and then feel that you are energetically, you're sending energy into that future state, but also at the same time your divine team is also sending their energy into that prayer, and you're all coming together and it's all amplifying because it's building and strengthening on each other. So I would love to know, you can put in the comments if there are tips that you have. How do you feel that your prayers get strengthened? How do you really feel in the flow when you're praying? I would love to know. And I wanted to let you know that Friday at 11, I have a live stream with Lori and Sarah from Into the Blue Channeling. You don't want to miss that. They're going to be getting into the Akashic records and answering your questions. And I get to have a session with them tomorrow where they're going to go into my Akashic records, and I can't wait for that. We have the Miracle Summit coming up on November 14th. So I will put the links for these things so that you can register and join us in the show notes. And all kinds of things that you can find on the podcast, themeditationconversation.com, as well as on my website, karagoodwin.com. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have an amazing and blessed rest of the day. And thank you so much. I'll see you next time.